We thought it might be a good idea to talk about how to make your campaigns scary.
Not horrible, but horrorful. But speaking of which, personalizing the nightmare that you want to do.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, because what we're trying to do is create an engaging story.
Your PC is a tool for fear and terror at your table. They always are. But now it's not just to the DM.
Not
it's
just
to the other
NPCs.
players as well.
Yeah. Holy.
Okay. I think something's about to happen.
You ever feel like you're in a ritual?
Right?
Like
different from the normal ritual?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
That's, well, what's the worst that can happen? Get destroyed? Speaking of getting destroyed, though, today's note reads,
Yeah.
as usual, attention, read out loud exactly what is written on this note,
Dun, dun, dun.
or be replaced and destroyed. Wait, destroyed and don't. Attention, read out loud exactly what is written on this note, or be destroyed and replaced. Welcome to Caffeine Cantrips,
What's up?
the show where we talk about D&D
Or else.
Bright moons to you, mythologists. It is that time of the year again. And if you're behind in your Hallows Eve preparations, you might just be in luck. Today, we're here to guide you through the tricks and treats of your very own Scarefest. Have you ever wanted to leave the table because the tension's so thick that you forget you're playing a game?
Thick like Vegemite.
Thick, that's how we like them. Ever realize that you forgot to breathe through a scene?
I'm so glad that that's on the note.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the stuff. So, if you're feeling dangerous, grab your cauldrons and implements of the dark and join us as we dive into running horror at your table.
So fascinating.
Oh, double toil and trouble.
Yeah.
Cantrips burn and caffeine bubble. Join us for a show that's good and deep. For when you roll the die, only crits you'll keep. Well, once again, welcome to Caffeine and Cantrips.
Another episode of Jeepers and Creepers.
Oof, it's that time of year again? Close.
Close. We're drawing nigh to the Devil's Hour. I think that's what they call it.
Is that what they call it?
I think that's what they call it.
Okay.
If not, get in the comments. We thought, hey, it is.
This is the devil, guys, not my hour yet.
Not, thanks, but no thanks. I got lots of these. No, you're right. It is coming to the spooky happy season that many people enjoy. And on top of that, you're probably having parties, festivities, all sorts of other fun
special D&D sessions, maybe
inclusive things, which your favorite TTRPG might just rear its ugly head and say,
ugly.
"What's up?"
So nice.
Less one shot. I think that's an excellent idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, in the vein of that idea, as all the blood coming out of your cut vein there,
prop blood.
We thought it might be a good idea to talk about how to make your campaigns scary.
Not horrible, but horrorful. It is a really interesting kind of
terrific,
concept.
But terrific.
When we're thinking about these things, horror is one of those things that is going to create a very guttural, visceral reaction, right? Either you are the type of person who is like, heck yeah, or you are heck nah. It's
nah.
Bow, 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 bow. I don't know why song came in here, but that's okay. So no, it's really kind of, like I said, one of those things that a lot of people are either going to be for or against, right? And I think there's very little middle ground on it.
I don't know. It's tricky, right? Because everyone's tolerance for horror and fear is different, and what triggers those horrors and fears is different by person. So it's hard to define a middle ground.
Well, luckily, we have, hopefully, if you've followed us or follow kind of normal practical application these days, you have probably done a session 0 or at least had conversations as to what is appropriate, what is not appropriate in your game at your table. And with that, that's going to give you a better idea of what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, and where that sweet spot is in that uncomfortably acceptable zone is, right?
So as we go through this talk and you learn all the ways to induce terror and horror and dread in your players and in each other, keep this in mind. Please stay safe. Please stay respectful. Respectful? Yes. And have fun.
Absolutely. And also huggies. So, I mean, just in case you guys really excel. So let's get started today, I think. Let's get chatting about kind of a broad view of everything that we're talking about today.
Spooky skeletons.
Spooky, scary
skeletons.
Yeah. So that's safety, like we just mentioned, the psychology of what's going on, as well as the occasional sucker punch.
It's a good movie.
It's
not a horror, though.
Not a horror. Still excellent. I really enjoyed it. I think it's best. Yeah, I would. I think it's best that we start in our own past a little bit here when we start talking about these things. And some of the ideas that we've already put out there, hopefully you've been through our catalog a little bit.
Bringing out the skeletons from the closet.
In our own closets, yeah. If you have watched a previous episode of ours named The Elixir of Obsession, you are going to be familiar with some of the ideas of the chemicals that are rooting around in our head that are causing like the base of emotions.
Right.
Yep. And one of them, particularly the one that was noted to be careful about,
cortisol.
Cortisol is one of those stress-inducing. It's a hormone as well as a chemical. Yeah. That is going to react differently in different people. Right. It is engaging that kind of fight or flight activity within the body. It's not necessarily activating your epinephrine, and your adrenals, and all that kind of stuff. But it is stressing the body. It is adding stress. And when we're doing this, we have to be a little bit careful, not only because we're actually playing with people's emotions, as we always are as role players, respectfully. But, when we're doing these things, when we're talking about horror, I think horror is one of the kind of specifically, for me at least, one of the most difficult to tread kind of the optimal path. Right? We've got, if it's not scary enough, then it doesn't kind of activate you and it doesn't make you react in a genuine way where there is fear in play. And if it's too much, it's too much. Right? Whether that's gore, body horror, you're freaked out, gaslighting, I don't know, cosmic horror, any of these sorts of things, it will go too far and then you won't enjoy it.
Yes.
So at the table with 4 or 5, 6, however many individuals there are, you have to find this like perfect Venn diagram as players. Remember, DM's a player too, right? But as players to kind of hit that stride and carry that through.
And you're going to have to find that Venn diagram connection there together. Right, DMs and players. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's going to be difficult because of all the media that's out there nowadays. There is fantastic examples of horror, of fear-inducing, anxiety, cushion ripping, scariness. There's also cartoons and kid stuff, and that fits on the horror spectrum as well, right? But it's not spooky at all. So there is this whole breadth of what is going to activate those chemicals and hormones in you and what is not going to.
It's a good point, because there's lots of like the fixins, like skeletons are supposed to be scary, but they're not always, right? The kids' ones are not scary at all, but they're scary stuff, like vampires and stuff like.
I mean, when you get into the lore and like you go
Mhm.
Bram Stoker or who was Anne Rice? No. Who was the original,
Count Chocula? What?
the first female author? It was
Anne Rice? Maybe.
Yeah, I want to say that. You'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But these were truly like blood chilling stories,
Mm.
right? Digging back into mythology and lore and pulling it forward. Nowadays, vampires are commonplace.
Well, they're sexy apparently, or
And
these days,
sparkly.
right? Yeah.
And you know, like all of the different monsters have their own sex appeal. Like really they do. There's always a sexy version of it. There's also a sexy costume of
Welcome to Halloween.
it. Right. And so that's going to be at play as well. But I'll talk about that stuff.
That's
later.
only about a society that we live in.
But when we're talking about this in general, like we said, safety is number first. Number first.
Mm.
Also known as number one. When we're dealing with this in general,
Mhm.
when we're watching horror movies or reading a scary book or whatnot, we have what we call the frames of security. And this is something that everybody needs to have in order to enjoy the medium of horror or suspense or
Okay.
or any of that stuff. And so it breaks into 3 separate sections. The first section is safety. You have to know that you are safe in the moment. So while watching Jason brutally stab
Wait, just
people,
wait. So what are these frames for?
the frames are essentially the structure of what you need to have in order to enjoy fear.
Oh, okay. I probably don't have these frames because I don't particularly enjoy fear.
Let me know where you break down.
Yeah, okay.
So number 1 is, like I said, safety.
Mm.
You have to know that you are watching a movie. So Mike Myers or, you know, whoever is, Jason is stalking across the screen.
Mike Myers.
Right?
I think of the actor.
I know you do. It's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, baby. You know that it's a movie.
Right.
Some part of you knows it's a movie, that you are not actually being threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Safety frame, complete.
Right.
That's the easy one. Detachment is knowing that, remember how we talked about this before, how what we remember and what we see and whatnot, our mind can kind of displace our bodies from it and start to believe that we might be a part of it or not. Or our memories don't remember that we're watching a movie.
Mhm.
They just remember the movie. That layer of detachment is the second frame of safety that you need
Mm-hmm.
to know that you are not a part of the story. You are a viewer of.
Right.
And some scientists might say that, yeah, now you're a part of the experiment because you viewed it. But in this case, you are not running away from the terror in the movie. You are not being stalked by the creatures of the night, unless you are, and good luck. But in this case, these things, you can have a layer of detachment. Once again, you know that you are in a safe place.
Right.
You know that this is not happening to you.
Okay.
Right. And so therefore you can take that pause, take that breath, relax a moment where the character might not be able to.
Yeah.
And the third frame for us to enjoy fear and anxiety and horror in general is confidence. And confidence is that we are learning and or believe that we can surpass the characters who have failed to survive the horror.
Oh, okay.
So we see it, we are learning from it because we are feeling and experiencing fear. Our brain does not know the difference.
Right.
Right? It is experiencing it. It knows that we're safe though, but it's learning. Don't split the party. Don't walk down the scary dark hallway, right?
Right.
Do these lessons so that you survive. Garlic, don't invite the vampire in, right? Silver bullets, all of these sorts of things. We learn that, and that develops our confidence to know that we would fare better than the people who don't know what's going on.
Right.
Like the beginning of every zombie movie, right? They're like, "Are you okay, buddy? Are you okay?" Right? They're just like, no, everybody knows to be like, zombie, like across the park, right?
Yeah.
Down the end of the street, like zombie, that's a
Like,
zombie.
you poke him with a long stick.
Yeah.
Right.
These sorts of things assist us in real life learning from fables and stories.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
These are just
absolutely.
advanced versions of Aesop's fables.
Oh, they're advanced, but they're different kinds. They serve a different purpose and
Yeah,
different
it's
lessons.
not just like a short little story.
Right.
Yeah. So these are the 3 layers.
Okay.
Now, these are for us as players or as viewers. These are not for the PCs. Because
not for the characters.
The characters themselves, right? The player needs to know that they're safe.
They're not detached.
No, they are not.
Yeah.
And they might have the confidence, oh, I'm a monster hunter and I've seen this stuff before. Sure. But they have a very real chance of not coming out unscathed.
Right.
Right? A very real. So
a very fake real.
So knowing the difference and having that layer of separation between you as a player
Yes.
who knows you're safe, and then even if you choose to suspend, disbelief and you go all the way into your character's mind, there's a little part of you that needs to know that you're having fun playing a game.
Yes.
Right?
You just freak out.
You need to have that anchor of sanity, really. And that's important.
For everything. Every time I'm playing games on a video game, every time you're like watching the news, like I'm not actually there getting burned in that forest fire. Right? You need that detachment.
You're right. Very good.
Okay. Cool.
Very good. But these are obviously, and this might be rudimentary, right? This might be kind of basic, but this is what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have these three things, then you probably don't enjoy horror.
Interesting, because I don't particularly enjoy watching horror movies, but horror games I like. So
interesting. You're all about that confidence. You want to do something. You don't want to watch the failure.
Maybe. It's probably the same reason why I can't, that old TV show Friends? I can't watch any scene with Ross in it. It's just so, it's so shameful that I switched to another channel.
You don't like paleontologists?
I don't like that paleontologist.
They were on a break. Sean.
No. Anyways, so it's the same. I think it's the same thing with watching these movies. I don't have control of these people, and it stresses me out.
Oh, interesting.
I think something like that.
Micromanager, Sean.
Yeah.
No, so when we're dealing with these things, to continue on.
Yes.
So now we know what it needs to be to feel safe and to be able to enjoy fear and anxiety and dread and all of these things. The next step when we're trying to create this is to start playing tricks on the psychology of the players.
Okay.
Right? And these are positive manipulations, right? These are things to engage more fun, not things to be mean or any of that kind of sort of stuff.
Right. I mean, a movie that the actors are positively manipulating us.
Absolutely they
right?
are.
The DM is also doing that in normal campaigns.
Yes.
Right. And so are you as a player to everyone else as you RP and create like engaging RP content.
Exactly.
Right? That's what we're doing to you right now out there.
Love the manipulation.
Yeah.
So yes, like that, we need to utilize some tools and what those tools might look like. And we might go into these and we will go into these in a little bit, but like real world fears may or may not be okay to use, right?
Right.
You're scared of spiders. Well, we're fighting fantasy spiders. That's okay. Right.
Right.
But you want to make something specifically horror based that hits me where I live.
Right.
That's different than just going into a dungeon and experiencing spiders.
That's like laser focus on like my personal trauma.
Welcome to D&D.
One time I was staying over at my cousin's house in the basement and I woke up and there's a spider on my eye. Doesn't mean I'm scared of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Confidence. Other things that we can use to create like more engagement and more pressure and attention. We've talked about some of these things before, but like creating a time, like a countdown clock. You only have this amount of time left.
Oh, it really ups that pressure.
Yeah, ups the pressure, makes them move a little bit faster than they're more comfortable with, right? Less time to analyze, really defeats analysis paralysis, right? But all of these sorts of things will do that, limiting the amount of resources that they have, whether that's long rests, short rests, healing potions, kind of waste stuff, whatever you want to do, right? Creating that sense of that noose ever so slowly closing in.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people like these things, sometimes they do not. Right? And that's fair because you talked about that in session 0. And if you didn't, now you know for your next session 0 or your next session 0+1 to bring these sorts of things up. I enjoy, I do not enjoy.
Right. Halloween's coming up. You guys tell me what you do not enjoy.
Do not put me on the clock, man.
Give me healing potions, man. At least 5. Come on.
In each hand.
Trauma.
Yes.
I got potion PTSD.
Maybe.
Not enough.
Not enough. That's called an addictive personality. But speaking of which, personalizing the nightmare that you want to do.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, because what we're trying to do is create an engaging story. And that means that wherever you're getting these threads from, right? We always talk about looking for hooks and whatnot. You're trying to amplify those into the horror setting, which we're going to get into a little bit more.
Yeah.
And kind of like the last thing that I want to do in this overarching kind of look.
Okay.
Right? Talking about the sucker punches in this part. These are These are the non-lethal consequences. Because you probably saw in the title, it's not death. Death is the easy way out.
Yes.
Or as the original Mummy said, right, death is only the beginning. Looking at things like consequences that are probably worse than just rolling a new character, right? This is perhaps a curse or something that follows them, a dark pact boon or a dark boon in of itself, where you got like good and bad. When you use it, it goes worse. Maiming, if your player allows that to happen. What other kind of stuff psychological trauma, you could add stuff or adjust their ideas, bonds, flaws.
Right. You not be able to see anything beautiful anymore. You see just decay. Right? Stuff like that, right?
Even perhaps something that people don't think about a lot, non-lethal damage. Sinister. Because it just knocked him out and it started dragging them away. What does it want with them?
Right. It just went inside him, but he seems normal.
Inside?
The ghost or whatever. It just went into him.
Yeah.
But he seems fine. You ask him, he's like, no, I'm feeling great.
And that note that the DM passed to him, I totally don't get to act on that as a player. But yeah, think of probably the safest way of continuing the story without killing the PC, but also scaring the hell out of everybody.
Right.
I want you helpless and knocked down. I want you paralyzed and unable to move as you have to watch what happens to everybody else. Right. These are real fears.
Yes.
Which we'll probably talk about in a bit, but these are the real things that start to like get our own goats.
Yes.
Right. And remember, because we talked about this enough, in your story wheels, there is a section that specifically says they pay a heavy price. Right.
Yes.
If this is a horror story that you are telling, that is a large section of the wheel of what you have to pay, what you have to sacrifice to move
to
forward.
survive. Right. Yeah.
So that's our entry 101 to this.
No, it's interesting how things that we talked about before change and sort of warp when you get into like horror themed campaigns or sessions, right? And I want to get more into what it is what you can do to actually make things scary, like feel scary.
Well, it's about the experience, not the XP.
Right. It's about how the skeleton is presented, right? It's not exactly just the skeleton, right? And I'm going to dive into sort of
it's inside me
for someone who doesn't like fear and watching scary movies.
Right.
I'm probably going to talk about it a lot. That's why I don't like scary stuff. Yeah. In general, although D&D scary, that'd be awesome. Like Ravenloft is so cool. Anyways, I know. I want to jump into it. Like you're like, okay, I want to put scary things in front of my players. I don't necessarily want to like just focus in on player trauma. It seems maybe too much or cheap, right?
Also, could be a no-go.
Or like very specific, like spiders or clowns or whatnot, right? Or like drowning. But there are certain things that are sort of universal to the human condition and how, in general, all of us are scared of. And they're called primal fears.
Oh.
And they're kind of hardwired into us.
Oh.
So I'm going to go through just a couple of them. There's a big list, I think. So basically, human primal fears, I'm going to talk about a little bit, are things that are deeply ingrained into our brains, through evolutionary psychology.
Oh, this is the hardwired stuff.
Yeah.
This is the lizard brain.
Right. And they basically reflect our most instinctual anxieties, like the most basic fears and worries.
Okay.
That have to do with survival, typically. I'm going to skip some of them because we are very familiar with them. Like fear of death. As TTRPG players, we know death. Things die, we die. Right.
We also revivify.
Right.
Yep.
the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to talk about that. Things like betrayal, loss of a loved one, pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to talk about those ones.
Mm-mm.
I'm going to move on to something that's more, I guess,
Spooky.
spooky in the theme of horror.
Okay.
Okay. And the first fear I want to talk about is the first primal fear I'm going to talk about is the fear of the unknown.
Oh.
Uncertainty. Actually.
Okay.
So it's basically the things that I don't know that's out there, but I think is out there. I don't know what it is, but it's so frightening because if I don't know what it is, I can't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it comes, I'm toast.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So things that you can do to promote fear of the unknown is basically design mysterious environments in your campaign or your one shot or two shot.
Okay.
Right. Settings that are shrouded in mystery and ambiguity. And you understand this when you think about horror settings, anyways, right? Instinctually, because we've seen all the media. So things that are like eerie, uncharted locations where the players and the characters can't really predict what might happen next because it's sort of unfamiliar, or maybe it's familiar but unfamiliar in a certain way that enough that you don't know what's going on. It's unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Something weird is happening. I don't know what it is.
Dark vision is great, but dark vision is not fog vision.
Right?
Yeah.
Another way of doing it is adding cryptic clues in the campaign, right? So symbols or writings that hint at greater incomprehensible truths to the characters,
Yeah.
right? But make sure these clues aren't just superfluous. Make sure they're integral to the plot, right? Because it entices the players to sort of come in and unravel the unknown, right? And if you make it dangerous enough, right, a threat enough, or sort of hinting at that threat, then those clues become scary because it hints at something there that's threatening, but you don't know what it is.
Right.
Right? Because you have to tell the players there's something there, like something that you don't know that you should be scared of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fear of the unknown. Another one you can do is fear of isolation. This one's actually pretty big for humans. As humans, we are group animals. We're instinctually sort of designed to work as a group and survive as a group. Because we know one man against a tiger, you're done. Right? 10, you're generally okay. Maybe. More okay than just one. Right? So
this is why isolation is legally the worst thing that we can do to somebody.
Right?
In most places.
Yeah.
Right? Put you in a box by yourself.
For a long freaking time.
For as long as we feel like. And you will probably break. Or like either in will or a part of you will break, right? Isolation is insidious.
Yes. And there's different levels of this that you can put in your campaign, right?
I bet.
For the party, just put them in an isolated environment. A lonely environment, right? A remote island, or anywhere that's isolated from the rest of the world, right? Whether you're cut off from support networks and you're forced to rely on just each other in the face of danger. I mean, we kind of have that already. Like when you're off as an adventuring party, you go down to the Underdark or whatever. But now, you always know you can always leave.
Right.
Right? And get help or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why you're cut off, right? Another way of promoting isolation is using NPC betrayal. Right?
That never happens.
What? No, right? So introduce an NPC who is initially sort of very trustworthy, but later on just betrays the party and it isolates you from everyone else. So maybe he makes or they make you hated by the rest of the community. So you can't depend on anyone but yourselves.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Social isolation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or maybe you go into a village and everyone seems friendly, but they're actually all cultists. And you find that out later.
They all have the same haircut. You should have known.
Right? They all have that same scar on their forehead.
Yeah.
Like that upside down star with the demon horns. I don't know. It's weird. I thought it was just a fad. But no, they're cultists. We all failed our perception checks on that one, guys.
Yeah.
And the insight checks.
Whoops.
So yeah, you isolate them. And it's a primal fear. Everyone kind of to some degree or another is scared of being isolated. The next one, let's go with fear of the unnatural.
Oh, okay.
right? Supernatural entities,
Mm-hmm.
ghosts and
Yeah.
zombies and those kind of things, demons. And so you introduce otherworldly or eldritch or supernatural beings that defy the laws of nature.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like that as humans because you can't deal with it, right?
In our lives, right?
Yeah,
But it's
because you want to scare the players,
right. Yes.
right? Not the characters. They're whatever, right? But it's the players that you want to experience fear. So if those supernatural entities generate fear in the players,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. This is where it's so tough in D&D
Mm-hmm.
and in any TTRPG, really, to create that sense.
Yeah,
Right? Like, there's a dragon in front of you.
right.
Oh, that's fine. No, it's not fine. Your character has never seen one of these things. It's massive. It's magical. It's dangerous. It's deadly. You can't just be like, psh. What? But I can't tell you that you can't just be like, psh, right?
Or,
You got to buy in.
Well, you have to make that dragon unnatural to the players because the players have a certain sense of what dragon should be.
Mm-hmm.
A simple way of doing it, the dragon, just you make them talk in the voice of your dead child. Daddy? Are you there? Hello?
Mhm.
Right? So and all of a sudden it's creepy. Like, why? Why are you talking like my wife? She's
Sorry.
back in town.
Yeah.
Or stuff. It's like, that's not, the dragons don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's unnatural to the players and what we think of as normal.
Mm-hmm.
Another way of doing that is sort of disturbing transformations. Mutants, no one likes a mutant unless they're Ninja Turtles or something.
But
But
they're teenagers.
but
Wait till they grow up.
disturbing transformers, not the machine kind.
Right.
Right? So incorporate elements of, if your players are good with that,
Mm-hmm.
body horror, right? Where characters witness unnatural and like grotesque transformations, either in themselves or other people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, yeah. What was that movie where they have to go through the shimmer? It's that team of females that go in.
and like the plants kind of.
The plants are like grow like people.
Yeah, I
And you
don't
get
know.
that bear that like
Yeah, yeah.
speaks as people. Yeah. Like something familiar.
So
but
creepy, right?
yeah. Grotesque.
I don't know what the movie is. Let us know in the comments. Yeah, I don't know.
It's going to bug me.
It's creepy. And another thing about that movie that does well,
Worms.
it combines the fear of unnatural and the fear of helplessness. A lot of this, like being isolated, you feel helpless, facing unnatural things that you don't know how to deal with. You feel helpless,
Yeah.
right? And to do that, you talked about briefly, is resource scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you purposely limit the party's resources,
Mm-hmm.
right? Spells, potions, equipment. If you limit those, like what they had but they don't have anymore, you increase their sense of vulnerability and helplessness, and it's frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Another way of doing that is using disempowering effects,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like incorporate spells, traps, curses that you talked about
Yeah.
that temporarily or permanently, I don't know, it depends on how hardcore you are, temporarily strip characters of their abilities and render them, again, helpless.
Now,
Right?
I think of any of the ones that you've said thus far,
Mm-hmm.
this one, DMs, I would urge a salt bay of caution, because this could be perceived as antagonistic DMing. I'm specifically draining you of the things that you are strong at. I'm specifically putting in fire immune creatures when you guys primarily use fire to do damage or to kind of
Mhm.
impose your will on the world. Not because I want to defeat you, because I want to increase this feeling.
Right.
Right? I'm not trying to just take away your shtick or
Mhm.
whatever it is. I'm
Mhm.
doing this for a reason, and I'm only putting a sprinkle of it in to increase this.
Yes.
It's not ever like everybody all of a sudden is just
right.
gonna,
Like, I have no spells. I'm a wizard.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah, be judicious
yes,
with this.
yes.
For
this,
sure.
This one specifically.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. The rest, have at her.
Yeah.
Go get them.
All right. The last one I'm going to talk about
Oh, nice.
is the fear of the unseen. Different than the fear of the unknown. The fear of unknown is kind of conceptual.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of the unseen is specifically something is there, but I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, keep the nature of your threats
Mm-hmm.
hidden, right? And only reveal sort of glimpses or like a vague outline of what it is, right? And let the players' imaginations fill in the details.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever they imagine is probably worse than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like that movie. Is it M. Night Shyamalan with the aliens?
Signs?
Yeah. It was a great movie until I saw the aliens. And I was like, they're not scary anymore.
Well, that's kind of the trick, right? Like, that's one of the big, I don't know if it's a trope or whatnot, but it's kind of one of the lessons of telling like monster horror is you never show the whole thing.
Right.
Not until the very end.
Well, like
to increase that unknown, unseen,
like mysterious. The first Aliens was great because you only saw a glimpse of them.
Alien, yeah, for sure. Aliens, they're everywhere.
Right, but yeah, I guess. Yeah, but even then, it's quick glimpses usually. A little bit here and there, only at the end, I find, like you said.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. Let me know.
They're crawling around.
But Alien for sure. Yeah. But the later ones, like Alien 3 and 4, I'm like, it's not scary anymore.
Right. But you've acclimated, I think.
Maybe.
Right? That line of your acceptable has moved.
It's true.
Yeah.
I've gained that confidence.
Yeah, baby. Come at me, Xenomorph.
Another way of doing that for developing that fear of the unseen is using psychological torment.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, super fun. So you explore psychological torment of the characters. Make them feel like they're being pursued or stalked by something, but they can't see it. And it's always coming. Right? So it's scary and it's got that built-in anxiety that's always there. Right? It's always getting closer, but I can't see it. I don't know where it is. It can come from anywhere. Right? And that we hate that.
Yeah, what a great way of like turning backstories and whatnot on to players, right? You've got the barbarian with their danger sense. Ping that baby all the time.
Right? Everywhere, man. Game over, man. Game over. They're right in the they're in the room with us.
That was ad-libbed.
It's a great line.
You smush some scenes together. But like danger sense is one. I think Rangers, I think it's called Primeval Awareness now, but also like Favored Terrain. Like just this isn't right. Like there's something that I'm catching little bits of here and there, but there's something around here. It's always staying downwind. It's always there's something here.
Like you see the signs. Like you go across the way and you ping your perception. Right. There was something standing here.
Yeah.
Watching you.
I can't see its track. I can't see it, but you see this depression in the gut. Something stood here for a while. And we were camping right over there.
And when you came in the room, it wasn't there.
Yeah. And I mean, same thing, like if you've got a very city-wise rogue or bard, right? Like, I just know we're being watched. I haven't been able to spot them. I haven't been able to see who it is. And there's people everywhere. I know we're being watched. I've got this feeling.
Right.
So I think there's ways of playing.
They're all watching us. No one's watching us. No one cares. No. They're all watching us.
They are.
Right?
They are. How do you know? I got a feeling.
I know they are. You don't see them looking at you, but they're looking at us.
Yeah.
Oof. Already, I think about it. It's so creepy.
Wizards play off their arcana, right? There's a divination in the air. You can just feel that slight tingle of magic in the air. Like, someone's here. Right? Do feel free to embellish on these things, right? Yeah. I think that's fair to add to what you're trying to do here when you're trying to create that unsettling, unknown, unseen, perhaps isolating factor.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you take all these primal fears, put them together. You've got
mega fear.
Yeah, well, you got a cauldron of something dirty, right? That I don't like.
That dirty brew.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
You know what I do like though?
What do you like?
Can you guess what I like?
Dirty brew. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. This video?
Yes, I like when you guys out there hit that like and subscribe button.
Hit it like a dirty brew.
Do not fear the dirty like and subscribe button. It is great. You can end your isolation and have us join you every week.
By subscribing to our table. Everyone is welcome. The more the merrier.
Yeah.
Hit that bell for notifications. We're coming at you every week.
Yeah, on YouTube.
Spotify.
All the podcasting.
Platforms. Every single one of them.
Oh, pretty much.
Yeah.
All the ones that that'll take us.
Put an asterisk, caveat there.
So now that you've done that and you feel like that sense of togetherness and the warmth.
No more isolation.
Let's move on to how to develop a sense of psychological horror.
Hit him with the hard P.
In your horror campaigns. Yeah, psychological horror. It's a particular brand of horror.
Yeah.
What did you?
No, just hit him with the hard P.
Yeah.
But it's an S.
Psychological.
Psychic. Coming at you.
Psychic horror. Psychological damage. Okay. So what is psychological horror and how do you successfully execute it?
Yes, in a benign way.
Or not so benign.
Ooh.
Well, not non-damaging way.
Not malicious.
Yes.
Yes.
Positive manipulation.
Haha.
Okay. So if you want to boil it down to sort of one concept, one idea, to successfully execute psychological horror, you got to immerse the players in a setting where reality blurs and your own fears and uncertainties become the true source of the terror. That's why it's psychological. It's the fear is in your mind, created in your own brain.
It's so tough.
Yeah.
Because you have to almost like inception it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we're not in our own mind. We're playing a character in their mind. And that's where you got to play with the fun stuff. But also, you
have to reach into the mind of the players through their characters.
Oof.
Through your characters.
Like getting chips out of a vending machine. You got to go in low and reach up high.
Right? And what comes out? Psychological horror chips.
I didn't know it was a flavor.
Every time I hit A13 for the psychological horror chips, it gets stuck. It gets stuck every time. And I'm like, when's it coming out? What's in the bag? You never know. So if this is something you want to do, then keep listening.
Yeah.
First thing you want to do,
hit it.
You want to use subtle foreshadowing.
I do like this.
Right? So you let them know that there's something to be uncertain about. Right? We hinted at this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
subtle
foreshadows. Yes. So you insert sort of subtle visuals or auditory cues that hint at impending horror.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever that might be. Like I said, it's the footprints at the door that weren't there when you came in the room, but they're there now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're pointing towards the room. So something was there. What was it doing? I don't know. But your mind starts to conjure up what that might be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the psychological part of the horror.
And we never fill in the blank with the best case scenario.
No.
We always fill in the blank with the worst case scenario, right?
Because that's the way we're primed.
Yeah.
As humans.
Well, that's the hardwiring, right? You have to survive.
So you
assume the worst.
You can do that. You can foreshadow through NPC behavior.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yes.
And be brutal to your NPCs.
Of course.
Especially in this kind of a setting.
Mm-hmm.
You can employ symbolism again and recurring motifs in your exactly, right? Exactly. The upside down star with the horns on the scars on the people's foreheads in the town.
It's my favorite band.
Like they're all wearing headbands. Yeah, it's just a theme.
No, it's just a monastery.
It's headband day.
Every single time we go somewhere with headbands, you're always
right. But subtly, right? You show it to them, and they suggest sort of deeper meanings.
Yeah.
Right. And if you've done it already, then the players are primed to think of the worst things.
Yes.
Or not worst things, but just maybe it's that slow boil. Something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
The next time you see it, you're like, why is it here? Why is it here? And every time you see it, something weird happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's subtle foreshadowing. It's not going to happen now, but now the players feel like something is going to happen at some point, but you don't know when. You don't know what.
Great example. Everything, everywhere, all at once. All the black circles on their heads, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of the circle,
the
circle mirrors.
Spoilers.
It's not a donut. Spoilers. But it looks like a donut.
That's a bagel. Sorry.
Oh, and then he doubles down. But like the circular mirrors that you see, the circular kind of openings on the washers and dryers. Like there's all these circle symbols being put at you. And then they have the circles in black on their foreheads. Yeah, it builds and builds and builds. And then when you get there, you're like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it's been there the whole time.
Yeah. And then when you reveal it, then people can be properly terrified of it, right? So start with foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Nice and subtle.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of that slow boil.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Next, add some ambiguous threats. Ambiguous threats.
Yeah. Again, we talked about it in
are the primal fears, right? Keep the source of your horror hidden or obscured.
It's coming.
Yeah.
What's coming? The end of days.
Right? Or you can see it, but make it make the visuals unsettling. Like you don't know what it is. It's weird. It's surreal, and it's real, but it's not real, and it blurs those lines again. Right? So it's a threat, but I don't know if it is. What is it exactly? Again, it's something weird, and it starts to build up the anxiety and that tension. And you want to create in the minds of the players at the table a doubt of whether that threat is supernatural, or is it just in my brain? Is it just psychological? What is it? Is it actually a monster, or am I just freaking out? Is it just my imagination? That's a sweet spot that you want to ride when it comes to ambiguous threats.
Okay.
Right? Where you're not sure.
Yeah.
Right. And what you want to do is you want to allow the characters to question their own sanity.
Nice.
Right.
Yep.
And the players to question their character's sanity. Right. And you can do that by, well, we'll get into it. I think I got a process.
The slow burn, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you can do that. How do you question their sanity? What you want to do now, I think you want to try to manipulate the perceptions.
And how do we do that, Sean?
Well, most media, movies, TV shows, even books, I guess, they use something called unreliable narrators, or like shifting perspectives to create that uncertainty. Where there is a sort of exposition, a part of the story that's presented to you, but the person or the thing that's presenting it may or may not be reliable. So you don't know if that information is correct or not. Right? You figure there's probably a grain of truth, but you're not sure. Okay, so it's manipulating the experience by using unreliable expositions, unreliable narrators, and that can be NPCs, that can be other players. Like, perception check. For a split second, you think you see a horrible face behind the rogue's face in the mirror. Was it there? Was it not? You're not sure. It could have been the darkness.
Right.
And then they say, "Oh, behind you, rogue." Turns around, nothing there.
Classic.
Right? Or you can show the same event from multiple viewpoints, right? And there's discrepancies. So 4 characters walk into a room, they see 4 different things. And they talk about it. For example.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? So then you don't know what is right. Right? So they're like, so you question, who's right? Am I right? Are you right? Are we none of us right? Who can we trust? What perception can we trust? Right? Again, you can use other things. You want to be more heavy-handed, sort of visions, again, or unreliable senses. You hear something, you go there, there's nothing there. You see something, but it's not there.
Right.
Or you don't see something, but it's something that you take a bite of an apple, but you find out it's just a glass orb, and now you take 1 damage because of the shards in your mouth. Right? It's like, oh.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing saying that the vision that's being implanted or the dream or whatever is coming from a reliable narrator.
Yes.
Right? We don't know what the source it was. The DM, you probably know what the source is. But, if that is a thing, entity, power, whatever, it has a bias.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So it may not and probably isn't telling the truth. Maybe their truth or what they want to reveal at this point, but not necessarily.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting.
And the last thing you can do,
shout out to the dream spell,
to mess with the perceptions that people have. And don't do this in real life, but gaslight. Gaslight the characters, and by extension, the players. Positive manipulation. Okay. And how do you do that? Let's dive into the tactics of gaslighting, guys.
Yes.
This is going to be like clipped and put somewhere.
Yep.
Sean from Caffeine Cantrips teaches us how to gaslight.
Cancel.
So the first one is denying reality.
Oh, we're going into this. Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Deny reality.
Yeah.
If you have NPC, you do that like, oh, what? That cat totally ate the other cat. NPC's like, no, I don't see any cat. Right?
There's always been one cat.
Right? I don't think you saw anything.
Yeah.
There's never two cats. Or you can trivialize feelings. I feel like we're being watched by everyone. But nah, you're just being nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, I feel like there's danger here. This is like the safest place in the house. There's no way.
Yeah, I come in here all the time.
Right?
No problem.
Look at these symbols. They're protection symbols. They will not come in here.
Yeah.
Right? And you minimize concerns. Right? I really think that this is something here, these footprints that show that something is watching us. It's probably nothing. We can probably take care of it anyways.
Yeah.
Right? You minimize it, but in the player's mind, you're like, no, it's something. Don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's not. Right? Or like, oh, maybe that was the fighter. He was standing there before he came in. I don't know. Right?
Well, no, sorry, I left my boots out there.
Yeah.
Because they were wet and I didn't want to bring in my muddy boots.
NPCs, right?
NPCs.
You can twist the facts.
Old man NPC.
Right?
Yeah.
It didn't happen that way. It's more like this.
Yeah, he came in from that window, not the door.
Mm-hmm. And then you can isolate the victims.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not around support. NPC take away another player to like, I need to chat with you for a second. We'll catch up with you guys in a bit.
Right. So saith the doppelganger.
Or right.
Yeah.
Gaslighting. Yes. I don't want to get into too many techniques. So then I don't want to create like expert gaslighters out there.
Ooh.
But for the purposes of scaring your campaign, participants, please do so.
Right.
Should that be acceptable at your table? And once you've done that, hopefully you have engaged your table's imagination.
Right.
Because that's the scary part. That's what creates the fear in psychological horror, right? So basically you show just enough of all this stuff so that the players sort of have a hint of that threat.
Right.
And fear.
Right.
Right. And you encourage them to fill in the gaps with their own anxieties with all these sort of hints that you've been putting in there, right? It's a slow burn, and you're manipulating your players to do the grunt work, to scare themselves, basically.
Yeah. This is the best part.
Yeah. Right? Like their own anxieties, their own interpretations will come and create stuff.
Yes, they will.
For you.
Yeah.
Right? So what you want to do is you want to suggest the horror instead of explicitly showing it. Right? Like the aliens. Like, don't show the aliens.
No.
They're far more scary when you see the hands scrabbling underneath the door.
Right.
Right? That's freaky.
Yeah.
But if you saw a dude in an alien costume, it's kind of obscene. Right? Like it's not.
Is that 4 hooks that you just put out there?
So many hooks.
So many hooks. Such bait.
We're talking about it, right? Use symbolism and metaphor.
Yes. Yeah, we touched on that before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, incorporate those symbols, metaphors, visual motifs. Again, that ignites that imagination. What does that mean? Oh, now this one has horns and teeth on the star.
Ooh.
Right. Like, but this place, it's horns and heart. What's the right? Ooh. They're similar, the same motif, but they're different.
These are the nice ones.
Oh, and there's underneath it is also a eviscerated animal. And you're like, oh, now you've associated with something bad, right?
It's just pest control.
Right. Well, exactly. Right. It's
I just love my job.
A ward of protection, really.
Yeah.
But the trick is to create questions and leave them unanswered.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Don't feel obligated to provide clear explanations for any of your sort of mysterious elements that you put in there.
Right.
Right. You want to leave a lot of room for ambiguity, open-ended interpretations. Great for our D&D table. They do that anyways, like on a shopping episode. They're all zombies, guys. And
it wasn't me this time.
And what you want to do is basically you want to let those unanswered questions linger and fester in your players' minds.
Okay.
And you do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the psychological engine, horror engine sort of goes. And the more you do it, it just grows and grows and grows and amps and amps and amps until inevitable sort of climax or whatever, right? And psychological horror, you can combine this with people get off on different things. Psychological horror can be combined with all the other different kinds of sort of horror tropes too.
Yes.
Which makes it even worse.
Yeah, true.
Right? So if you really want to scare people.
Well, and that's one of the things, also a very great thing to talk about, is how fast you're letting this stuff come out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? At the beginning, it should be red string conspiracy. Oh, the circle over here is the square there. It's the triangle over here. It's geometry. Oh my God, there's shapes. It has something to do with the shapes. And everyone's like, no, it's an orphanage.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, the O is different than the rest of the lettering.
It's just a kid's drawing.
Yeah. It's not. He's the devil.
Kids are the creepiest.
Kids are the creepiest.
Well, when you make them unnatural, it's the worst.
Children of the corn, baby.
Well, the sound of children laughing and playing in the middle of the night in the park when there's no children.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, don't.
It's always kids laughing.
Right. Well, because it's unnatural. Because kids don't play at night.
Yes.
Right. And there should be kids when you hear.
There should be kids.
And kids are
there are no kids.
Typically so pure and you're twisting it.
It's the perversion of the innocence. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot. There's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And these are like swing for the fence big things, but also some subtle ones as well. I think that I want to talk about a little bit more of the subtle ones. Or at least focus more on that kind of an idea. Because I like what you're talking about, but I think if you swing too big on some of these ideas, especially too early, it might throw the whack.
Pacing is important
out of what's going on. And so I think when we're setting these things up, despite the fact that we're spending all of this time and attention focusing on the slow burn in the game, I think that we have to make sure that we're starting to set the scene around the game as well. And so I would like to kind of think of this particular idea that I'm going to dip my bucket into, call it like uncanny topography.
I like it.
So when we're doing this, if we want to create something that is slightly different, that is a perversion or a corruption or something that is slightly different, but isn't screaming that it's so different, right? We need to also prime the players to get into that mood, into that headspace. So that's maybe dimming the lights a touch around the play area.
For sure.
Changing your music. Right? Use all those sound libraries that are out there, right? There's so many, we're not going to go into it. They're out there and they're fantastic. And
they really are.
Adjust and create the mood. I think we've talked about it on here before, and if not, shame on us. But like, as far as ambiance and sound, like, music tells us how to react to things. Music is very specifically chosen.
Talk about cues, right?
Thanks, editor. Shout out to the editor. But cueing you on how to feel about certain things. One of the kind of great examples of this is old school, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where there was almost an entire episode in pure silence.
Oh, yes.
Right? Of the gentlemen, the surgeons that come and hold you down and do surgery. And it's horrible.
Right.
And no one can speak, no one can scream, no one can do anything, right? And there's no music in the entire episode. Specifically chosen to not allow you a moment of respite when the characters don't get that either.
Right.
Right? And so
it's uncertainty, right? How should I feel?
Yeah, but it goes beyond that. Because like you talked about before, some of these fears, some of these things are already hardwired into us.
Yes.
So we know the sound of jingling chains is very often not a good thing. Why? Because that's always like the butcher's shed or like the crazy cannibal's shack, or
it's in places where it shouldn't be.
Right. It reminds you of kind of like the brutality of what it is. It is metal and rust and probably some gore. And it does the heavy lifting for you.
Mhm.
It sets the stage and primes the mind to accept what is going to be happening next.
Yep.
And flavors it ever so gently.
Ever so gentle.
But it does the heavy lifting for you.
Mhm.
Right. And so these are important things to do, is to use these. So atmospheric descriptions, both for players and for DMs out there, right? Oh, this place smells of sulfur and eggs. Okay, probably means something demonic, right?
Right.
All the work's been done for you. How many times have we heard sulfur and eggs, sulfur and eggs, sulfur and eggs?
Right.
Okay, great. But it's already there to prime them. It's
a
also
Japanese
there,
onsen. I love these places.
I love it. It's also there perhaps to be a bit of a misdirect.
Mm.
Right? Oh, it's cultists, but they always smear a little sulfur. Why? Just to throw it off, to make it seem like they're demonic when they're not. Now you think you're facing a supernatural enemy, when really it's just people who are a little bit smart to throw you off the scent, right? To scare away the police or the
the
guard, the 5-0. Stuff like that is really important. And so when we're talking about pacing yourself, also do not be afraid to slow down the pace of your descriptions as the group is exploring, as they're moving through. Make sure that you are activating that flowery language that you have, but twist it over to the dead flower side, right? And really give them 2 to 3 senses worth of detail, not of just like, oh, it's bright and shiny and sunny and clean, right? No, it is dank, and you can distinctly detect moist and mold, like a moistness to the air and a mold that kind of chokes at your throat, a light clawing that irritates it ever so slightly, right? And the cold wind that moves through this place just jangles the little stained glass like mosaic ever so slightly, right? Like, slow down. Let them experience and fill in those gaps. Right? Don't allow them to rush through, because if you rush through, you don't get to sit in those delicious juices that you're trying to create. They just run across the top and they're to the next one.
Yes.
Right? Don't allow them to move at a pace that is comfortable to what they want to set.
Right.
Yep. Because that's one of the mitigating ways of taking back control of fear, is trying to take control or mitigate how long you're exposed to risk.
Right. Interesting.
So if you don't allow them to do that, beauty, right? And it's very simple, very insidious, and it doesn't involve gaslighting.
Right. That's why that's why I don't like horror movies, because I can't control anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because you're like, we're staring down this long hallway, like, for an uncomfortable amount of time. It's a hallway. You're
going to the washroom by yourself. I can't stop you. You're gonna just stress-inducing.
The house is not safe. Isn't that rule? It's one of the rules.
Carrion crawlers, right?
Well, they can come up, right? So these types of things, these
flavor traumas.
Also, there's lines of candles out there specifically scented for D&D. Why not go and get a candle for the sewers? A goblin, right? Whatever it is.
Sewer scent?
Go and try maybe doing this, right? Doesn't have to necessarily be on the whole time, but if you want a wholesome town and you put like a little like vanilla and cinnamon in like a measuring cup with some water, put it in your oven, bake it at like 200 for an hour before people show up, they'll all be like, it smells like pie in here. This is awesome. It's wonderful. It's welcoming. I want to be here, right? You probably don't want your house to reek, so like don't leave fish sticks in the freaking register and heat them up.
Fish sticks?
Yeah, I do. But so maybe don't go that far, but do try and maybe play with senses outside the game.
I could see how
prime people.
I could
inside,
see how that'd be really
right. Change your snacks. You're doing a graveyard episode. Okay, it's now crushed Oreos or like the Oreo crack and like gummy worms. Why? Because now it's worms in the air, and you're just priming you to see what you want them to see.
Halloween style. I love
Halloween style. Their eyeballs. They're just peeled grapes. Shut up, Tim.
Their eyeballs.
Their eyeballs. Get engaged. Go. Now, you talked about this before with different perspectives and whatnot. I think also temporal shifts can be kind of interesting. Difficult to play off.
Timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. Whether or not this is Groundhog Day style, where they're repeating and repeating and repeating, or you are adjusting kind of the visualization of what's happening. People are going twice as fast. So you want to get there to tell them not to go into that room because you saw the creature go into that room, but you can't. You're slowed down by an unnatural force.
Like a nightmare. I hate that so much.
And then you watch them do the thing that you're trying to stop them do to do, so that's that isolation once again, right? And playing with different powers, playing with
the helplessness, right?
The helplessness, right? I want to impart the information, but I cannot.
Right.
So time, if you can play with that, really, really interesting. I think also one of the things that is really difficult, and I kind of poked at this a little bit before, is the fact that you are dealing with heroes. No matter what system it is, you're dealing with heroes who are equipped to go out and fight the darkness and deal with these monsters and baddies and whatnot. And so when we talk about like removing their resources or limiting their resources, we also can look at making their resources unreliable.
Right. Yep.
Oh,
you still have it. Just not reliable.
You still have it. It's not reliable. Oh, you bought rations from that last stop before the wilderness. There's actually maggots in like half of them. You now have half the rations that you used to. Simple. Okay, great. No problem. You bought weapons from him. It's actually pig iron. It's terrible. It falls apart. It's brittle. It can't last. One crit and your sword breaks.
Oh, it'd be even worse. Like there's maggots on them. You can still eat them. They're perfectly fine.
But it's unsettling, right?
Yeah,
our weapons are unreliable. Which weapons are unreliable? Which shields are unreliable? What's good? What's not good? Our magic, impose wild magic, perhaps, in certain areas. So now the wizard who's like, ha ha ha, I don't need swords. I can just cast and create a feast, says the cleric. Well, can you?
Or just pervert all the spells into like something.
And we see that, you brought this up before, we see that in Ravenloft. We see that the Dark Lords can create and alter rules at their whim.
Yep.
Right? And so that can play off of, well, it worked last time, but you never know about next time. Right. And so making those things that they hold dear unreliable, in addition to what's going on, can add to the sense of panic, to the sense of fear, right?
Yeah.
The sense of the unknown. Because if they can't rely on their own heroic abilities.
Are they even heroes?
Are they? Yeah, they are. They still have hit points.
It's in your heart.
For now. Oh. Yugi.
Yeah.
The power of heart. Heart of the cards.
Heart of the cards.
I did bring it up before a little bit, but like, when we're talking about themselves, their heart, going into their backstories, right?
Digging in.
Going into the webs and closets of their history, right? All those NPCs that they have, right? If you're like at my table, you have a positive, a neutral, and a negative. It's a great time for that neutral or negative to do something questionable.
Right.
Or pop its head up and they go, well, why are you here? Or at least one of them does. Now there's that imbalance of knowledge in the party.
Right.
And whether they share that or not. I thought
you're supposed to be on a business trip. What are you doing here? Oh, in it earlier. Can we join you?
Business.
Huh. As a player, you'd be like, what?
Yeah. What is going on? And so that's great then, because now you have a positive isolation.
Yeah.
You now know more than everyone else.
Yeah.
And that knowledge isolates you. You have a different viewpoint than everyone else, a different perspective.
Yeah.
Right. We can go up and down on these scales.
Yeah.
Right.
And everyone's like, no, your friend's great.
Yeah, I love him.
Up and out, like,
he had extra rations, all of our maggoty bread, and it's so good. No, he's got to come with us. And you're like,
there's no way that those negotiations are finished already.
What? Something's up.
Yeah.
But I can't prove it.
Yep. Yeah.
And now I got to sit on it and figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Got to spend time with unanswered questions. Great thing that you brought up. And also, like I said, their backstories, where they came from. Do they have any kind of wake behind them that they've left due to their actions? Because while the players are writing their backstories, they're not necessarily writing what happened in the aftermath of their backstory.
Yep.
Right? And that's where the DMs can go in and really play and do stuff, right?
Because players usually write that out and just forget about
it. Yeah. Or they don't write it at all.
You know who you are.
Thank you. But when you go in, you can play with these things to bring back these ideas and kind of fold the characters in and reground them into the world. in an unsettling way.
Right.
Because then if you go, I wrote that and I have no idea what's going on. You're like, what am I missing?
Right.
What piece of my puzzle that I made?
How dare you hurt me with my own toys?
It's the best. It's the best. You do it to us and we do it right back. And with that exchange, right? It's great because now you can start to establish the rules of what's happening
Mm-hmm.
and you can create those unsettling exceptions.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yes, it works here, but it doesn't work there. And there is a reason for that.
Yes.
Yes, this person is unreliable, and there is a reason for that. Yes, this person is always reliable, but doesn't seem reliable. Yes, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Right? And so we can play on that positive and negative trope, switch them around, turn them upside down, flip them, twist them, combine them into one and make it, disassociative. Whatever you want to do, right? You can play with these things so that it's never quite like it appears.
Right.
Right. And that really loops me into my own version of fear of the unknown that you didn't really talk about. And looping back to my idea that I'm drawing from the well of uncanny topography. I'm playing on the idea of the uncanny valley. Which if you are familiar with this, it's essentially it's about humans it's about humans creating a deep distrust of things that appear like us, like a human, but are not.
Skinwalkers,
AI, robots, anything.
mannequins.
Right? Yes. So there's this idea that it looks like me, it sounds like me, but it is not like me.
Yeah.
Right. And when we extend this idea, this is the little steps towards victory. I feel in the goal of getting to
fear.
horror, right, and developing that anxiety, the dread, the fear, is not in the big, undescribable eldritch horror that is before you. Where you have to say it moves across the room, sashaying like a gorilla wearing a nun's habit.
Right.
What does that look like? I don't know because I can't describe it to you. It is unknowable.
Yep.
Right. But you as the player also cannot know. And so it becomes very difficult when an idea is too big.
Yes.
It ruins the immersion of it being scary.
Well, horror is all about the little details.
And this is it. This is where things are not as they're supposed to be. You walk into a room and all the chairs in the room are pointed at the door that you entered through.
Right.
Well, that's not normal. I can see the dining room. Those chairs should be pointed in. Why are all the chairs pointed at me?
Right.
This is just weird.
Right.
Right. And now we go and we look at something and we find out, oh, there's something weird with this. Oh, there's something weird with that. We leave the room. We come back in. All the chairs are pointed at where I entered the room. You're like, something is up here.
We're in a crematorium. Why is there a toy box filled with children's toys here?
Yeah.
What?
Huh.
I mean, why not? Psychological horror.
Right?
Right.
And we go, oh, that's got to be terrible. Maybe the, I don't know, what do you call a person who, like a crematoriumist?
Like crematoriist?
Somebody who works at the crematorium?
An employee.
An employee of the crematorium. Yeah, he just doesn't like it when kids don't get unfortunate. It's a loss, whatever. He gives them a toy to take with them because he believes that that's a good thing. Right? But you come in there and you're like, dude's a psycho. We need to deal with this. But it could be benign. Right? Yeah. That's the twist. It doesn't belong in this scenario.
The toy box full of toys, and there's a counter full of small urns above it.
Wah, wah.
Right? Same number of toys as there are urns.
Yeah.
Creepy?
Is it?
Who knows, right?
It is. It's
creepy.
Until you figure it out, it is creepy. It doesn't belong. Right? And so I think playing on those tiny little things, this is also why mimic colonies are friggin' scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? One mimic, kind of terrifying. We talk about it all the time. an entire colony that resembles a town,
Yeah.
right? That might actually have people living there.
Right?
Right? It's only the adventurers that it eats or the travelers that it eats, but everybody else is there. Whatever.
They're part of the trap.
They're part of the trap. It gets so unbelievably uncomfortable not having kind of ground to stand on.
You go into the house and it smells like morning breath.
That's a good one.
Right? Light that candle. Light that candle.
Your perception's low enough to tell you that you know this smell.
Right?
But it's high enough to tell you that the smell doesn't belong. And you're not sure why.
The hallway carpet is kind of wet. It's always damp.
Oh, as you make mouth noises too?
Yeah.
It's kind of damp. That's gross and awesome. But that's using that auditory thing to come. And that's where we loop into the idea of what is haunted. What does it mean to be haunted? Yeah, we can go the big swing, right? Oh, there's ghosts inhabiting this house. This house is haunted. Okay. That's not scary. Not by itself, right? Because it could be Casper. Everybody loves Casper. It could be his uncles. Very different story. Right?
Yeah.
And so is it a ghost? Well, we don't know if it's a ghost or if it's a poltergeist or if it's a white or if it's a, right? Whatever it might be, we have to go and figure it out, or we can just leave it alone.
No, you never want to introduce them as ghosts. You want to introduce them like, oh, they hired you to get rid of some rats.
Yeah, that are like scratching inside the walls.
Yeah.
Right? The big red herring off the top. Absolutely. But it's the small things. The chairs just point at you when you enter the room. Is that it? That's all that's weird in this house?
Of course it's not.
But maybe it's not, right? And you don't know. But
do you sit in the chair?
It in of itself is potentially benign, but it's weird.
It's not potentially benign. Everyone knows that.
It could be. It could just be. That's the way it goes.
It's not. It's never benign.
Bum, bum, bum. But it does pervert the idea of what you can rely on. And that's that I think is the key to creating horror is uncertainty.
Yes, definitely.
Right? You still know you're safe. You still know that you're detached. You still have the confidence to kick the ass of any ghost that you see. You got your holy water. You got your blessed salt. You got all that stuff, right? You got a cleric and a paladin ready to go. But the chairs turn. What do we do with turning chairs?
Well, right there, I don't see a ghost. What is it?
What is it?
I don't know. Right? Yeah.
Right? And then that then becomes the horror.
Yeah.
That. And
you are not prepared.
I mean, not to mention really like when we start talking about creatures that will attack players and not characters, right? Is where you get into stuff like the false Hydra. And
tell me about the false Hydra.
You're not aware?
Pretend like I'm not aware.
Do you hear it? The short version, I urge you to go and look at it if you want to be weirded out in a way that will make you uncomfortable for a few days.
Okay.
The false Hydra is essentially, in a nutshell, I don't want to spoil too much, especially if you don't really want to go for it. Spoilers, skip ahead a minute probably a minute if you don't want to hear about this. It is an invisible creature that looks like a Hydra in essence. Kind of bloated, not really structural or serpentine, kind of a bloated, human-fleshed Hydra with people heads.
Okay.
The one head that is the main head sings a song. That song removes any knowledge of the false Hydra or any of its victims from anyone that can hear the song. So it rewrites history retroactively to whomever it destroys or eats. So you go into town, and in said town, there are 10 people. And you talk to the 10 people, and you meet the 10 people, and the 10 people are very nice. And the adventurers leave, and they come back, and there are 9 people.
But they don't remember there being 10
and
people.
There's never been 10 people here. And when you hear the song, you also forget the 10th person. It's always been 9 people. In fact, players, please go back into your notes and redact anything that you have about John
It attacks the player because the players know.
It attacks the players.
Interesting.
And so you go into it, and as long as you super awesome. Ta-da! But these types of creatures are specifically out there to F with players.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me know a minute. Yeah, good. If you skipped, good for you. That's a 10 XP for you. And I guess speaking of attacking players, we get into the idea of the fear is the mind killer. Right? That famous line from Dune.
No. You know what? Before we talk about the fear is the mind killer.
What?
Let's talk about the algorithm killer.
The algorithm
Yeah.
Is it a killer?
Yes, because if you don't hit the like and subscribe button, it's going to kill the algorithm for you and you'll never see us again. And that would be the most dreadful and horrifying thing of all.
Maybe live out your true crime fantasy and become a serial killer and just go through all of our episodes and just stab that like button.
Yeah.
Bam, next, bam, next,
right?
Bam.
Like, subscribe, follow, YouTube, Spotify, all podcasts.
That's so good.
Done. Sorry. You can get back to fear is the mind killer.
Fear is the mind killer. It really is. Unlike kind of how we've been doing this today, talking about it, making jokes and whatnot, I think when you're at the table, the thing that's going to allow you to escape fear is inconsistency.
And you don't want you do not want people to escape.
Inconsistent. You want them to stay grounded to the.
You don't want them to escape. Is what I thought. That too.
Yeah, we are playing DnD forever. No, more seriously, you want to be able to maintain that tone and be a leader at the table to make sure that everybody is on the same wavelength. This is extremely important. Not for just an engaging game, but it's also so that you can stay aware of the safety tools that you have going on.
Right.
If somebody is disrupting the flow or telling jokes or kind of destroying the vibe, are we passing the vibe check for this horror episode or segment or arc or whatever it is? I can't, as a DM, necessarily fine tune how they're doing. Is this a defense mechanism that they're starting to use?
I was just thinking about
because
that.
They're like, no, this is getting too much for me and I need to lighten the mood. But I don't want to be that person that ruins it. No, I need you to be safe, happy, and comfortable so that you can be scared, full of dread.
Can we fade to black for this Mimic House?
Yeah, please. Yeah, you can. And you wake up in a stomach.
It's still black.
It's actually dark. No, but like I said, in seriousness, the consistency is paramount for maintaining what's going on. The music that's playing will stay tense, right? Until we're done the scene. After we're done the scene, I am going to let everybody take a little bit of a break.
Right.
That was intense. I need you to have a breath so that I can get back to this, right? We will provide mental breaks. We're going to end 10 minutes early in this session just because I want to decompress a little bit with everybody and make sure everybody knows that I'm good and still their friend. And I know that they're still my friend. Right. Utilize these things because when you get into that groove and everyone's in that groove, when you're watching the horror movie together, you don't stop in the middle to watch cartoons in the middle of the horror movie, right? It needs to maintain that flow.
Yep.
Right. One of my favorite scenes that increases the temperature all the time, ever so slightly, is in the movie Sicario. When they're not too much here, but when they're crossing the border to go and get somebody and bring them back so that they can stand trial in the
Mexican border.
Yeah, across the Mexican border. It is one long string of many tiny scenes, but one kind of idea that they're following, and they do not give you a break for about 20 minutes. It feels like an hour, right? Of just this pulse that continues to go. And they've told you when things are going to go wrong. They've told you what's going to happen, and you just need to wait till it does happen.
Yeah. I mean, what a wait.
Right?
Yeah.
And some of us will sit there and enjoy it. Others of us will fast forward. Others of us will pause, go to a washroom break, and come back.
Watch some cartoons.
Because it gets too much, right? And here is the ugly mirror of this particular thing when we're talking about consistency is, I think as the DM, you are a player at the table as well. Players, this is also true for you, but DM, since you're kind of running things, I'll focus on you first. You also need to find that line within yourself that hits that uncomfortable, but still within bounds. To like give a genuine level of uncomfort and of kind of that mystic or mystery kind of feeling to what's going on.
Okay.
Right? If you're going into an emotional scene, you can get emotional. Right? Why wouldn't we do the same for horror? Why wouldn't we get kind of like, right? Like start breathing a little faster, start kind of like allowing your heart rate to go up a little bit, start, sweating a little bit at the table, whatever it is, allow yourself to experience what's going on there with them so that you can channel that into your descriptions.
Well, it comes out in your voice, right?
And they will feel it.
Yeah.
When you have that core, that nugget of genuine kind of effort and that kind of pure, innocent nugget of fear, they will grow the tree.
Right.
Right. Simultaneously, if you're a player, respect the scene, right?
Go
along with it as long as you can go along with it, right?
Yeah.
Enjoy what's happening, yes, but do that. Like, be there to be there. Don't be there to disrupt, right? It's very easy to break serious scenes that are as fragile as horror scenes or horror episodes.
And it's surprisingly fragile.
It really is. It really is, because one can kind of disrupt it for everyone.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, when we say it's so difficult, the tools to promote this are everywhere.
Okay.
Right. So when we're trying to generate these things, when we're trying to use symbology and whatnot, we can go back and look at kind of the old masters like Alfred Hitchcock. Right. And we can go in and look at The Birds. Right. We can go and look at The Man Who Knew Too Much. The Man Who Knew Too Much, for those of you who haven't watched it, there is an assassin. And we know at the beginning, because the master assassin is telling the apprentice assassin, I'm going to kill the man in the song when the orchestra, the cymbals crash. That's when I shoot, because it's going to cover the sound of the shot.
Right.
Great. Easy peasy. And then he makes you watch 10 minutes of this performance of the orchestra. And the camera will slide over to the cymbals to be like, it's about to happen. It's about to happen. It doesn't happen. He's just steadying them. He's just making sure it gets it. And then they'll cut to the music, and you watch the music.
Effing with the players.
Goes, right?
Yeah.
You know when it's going to happen. You just don't know when it's going to happen. Right. And so eroding that sense of what you know. Right. Becomes part of that engagement, part of what keeps pulling you back in. Right. And despite your best attempts as a player, if you are getting uncomfortable, this is time to be brave.
It's when you can
as
be.
a PC, this is time to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Yes. It's time to allow and say yes and to the scenario, yes and to what's going on, and yes and I need a new Huggies because this one is done.
Call us.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need them, but
I want them.
Nice. In this economy? Yeah. And I think to close off, kind of what really gets people's minds going is like we talked about in the Alfred Hitchcock, right? I know when the bullet's going to go. I know that the BBEG is here in the room, and I know that they're unstable, and they don't necessarily resort to killing. Right. I know I'm locked in a room with the tiger. I cannot fight the tiger, but maybe the tiger's not hungry. It just doesn't care about me right now. Right. I know that if I fight the tiger, I lose. I know that if the tiger wants to play fetch, I lose. Doesn't matter what happens, I lose. But it's up to the tiger to decide where and when. Right. And I have no control. Only that if at some point it happens, it's going to happen.
But they give them someone to eat.
Yeah. Oof.
So the rest of us can survive.
But it's that knowing, like The Boys is excellent for this. The Superman-esque character. You just don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, flip out and
Yeah. He might kill you. He might disable you. He might pat you on the head and say, have a good day, sport. Right? He might turn around and talk you into jumping off of a building. It's you just never know what the end of the scene is going to look like. And even if you have all the cards on the table, you as a player, that uncertainty when everything else is known still gets your heart going.
Yes.
Still gets your blood running. So that's probably the biggest thing. Make the little things slightly different. Make them weird, and make the big things unknowable. Make them mysterious.
Yes.
You don't know what their next move is going to be.
No, it's interesting. I really like how you brought up players leaning into it. Into it. Because really, there's the feeling of fear in stories and movies. In thinking about this topic, I realize that the feeling of fear that you get when you're watching a movie, a scary movie or a scary TV show, it really depends so much on how the characters sort of react to what is happening around them. If they don't care, you don't really care.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
If you, I don't know, what's a scary movie? The Birds. You put Master Chief from Halo in that movie, and those birds are all dead.
Cortana, I need more birds.
Right? I've still got like 4 clips. I need more birds. Send more birds in.
No, it's true, and kind of the thing between the lines that you're saying here, and I apologize if I'm jumping ahead, is those are actors pretending.
You're right.
But they're pretending so good that you're scared.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's what we have to do at the table.
Well, and that's the thing. I think because a lot of what we talked about in this episode was about sort of what you do as a DM to create the sense of fear in your campaign, in your sessions.
You're going to go the other way.
Nice. There's a very big part of the fear is the responsibility of the player, right, who is in control of the actors. Player. Right? So I want to talk about how you induce fear as a player, right? Awesome. Because it's the DM, I don't think can do it alone. You as a player, you need to, if you don't do it, a huge part is missing.
Yeah, you need full buy-in.
Yeah. So in this way, we talked about how the DM is a player too, especially in the horror theme. The players are DMs too. Okay, so if you are a player, you are a DM.
DMPC, baby.
Right. And in your case, then, if you're a player, your audience is the other players.
Yes.
Right. And the DM.
Which the DM is a player.
Yes.
Yeah.
So why is it important though? Right? Because in the horror genre, the characters in the story, their reactions to fear is contagious to the viewers.
Yeah.
Right. So when they're scared, because the audience sort of can relate to the character and they see themselves in that situation and they suspended disbelief, the audience is more likely to feel fear as well when the character is scared. Right? Like if they're scared, I should be scared too. That's a social thing, right? If the whole crowd of people in the mall suddenly run away from a certain direction, you're probably going to run away from that direction too.
Yes.
You don't know what it is, but if everyone's running, there's something to be running away from.
And people do pranks of this.
Yes.
Right? And we just see how the mentality spreads. Yeah.
Right. So if you wanted to, and you should, your PC is a tool for fear and terror at your table. They always are. But now it's not just to the DM. It's to the other players as well.
Yeah.
So again, how do you do that as a player though?
Tell me, Sean.
Sure, Sean. It's my responsibility. But how do I do it?
Okay.
How can I do that? Step 1. Embody fear and vulnerability in your RP.
Yes.
Embody that fear. So actively role play your character's fears and vulnerabilities when they encounter anything sort of frightening or weird. Right?
Man, we didn't even talk about that. This is such a good point. Yeah. Right? Embrace.
Yeah. Like make them fear.
Go there.
Like, well, exactly.
Go there.
Right? And make it come out through your character. Right?
For you audio listeners.
Hand thrusts. So what you want to do is describe your characters like their trembling hands, right? The stammering speech, right? Or talk about their racing heart, right? And you want to convey their fear, right? Because if one person does it, the other players will sort of, it encourages them to feel that fear as well, because they're the audience.
Feel isolated in doing so, right? They go there together.
Yes.
Yes.
You want to make sure you react realistically in the scenes.
There we go.
Right?
Yeah.
So you want to react to in-game, in-character threats and horror elements as your character would, right? Even if it means making suboptimal choices.
That's
suboptimal game choices.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
Because what's scary in the movies? It's when those two people go off to have sex, because they always do in scary movies. You're like, don't do that. You're gonna die. One of you is gonna die, right? Or that character says, "Oh, don't worry, I forgot my flashlight in the other room. I'll be right back. I'll catch up with you guys."
Yeah.
You don't, right?
Yeah.
But that's a suboptimal choice. But that induces fear in the audience. Okay. You want to prioritize immersion over mechanical advantages to maintain that atmosphere of fear.
Yes.
Right? Because you are a DM in this horror genre. Right? It's up to you to create this sense of fear, right? So think about those characters in the movies and the stupid crap that they do all the time.
Well, when you're talking about it, the first thing that jumps to mind is this like sacrifice of self trope.
Oh.
That actually doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like, just close get on the other side of the door and lock it. Like, don't stay on the dangerous side of the door.
I'll hold them up. You guys run.
Yeah, you guys go. I'll hold the bridge. You're like, why?
They're ghosts.
You don't stand a chance. You're not even slowing them down. Just keep running. We could have used, no. Which is funny because that's what he's heroic, right? Is the self-sacrifice?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do it.
You lean into it.
Yeah.
And the thing about reacting realistically, when you're, as people, human are pushed to the edge of your sort of senses and your emotions. Like if you're extremely fearful.
Yes.
You are the worst you. Like all of your civility, all of your logic, all of your honor sort of gets stripped away to what you truly are. So typically what this means is that your flaws and weaknesses really show up now. Right? So in these situations, emphasize those flaws, emphasize those weaknesses that you've built into your character.
Get them.
Right? So if your character has any phobias, traumas, or moral qualms, right? Let these aspects manifest, right? Come to the forefront when at the worst time possible.
Yeah.
Because they're scared, right? Like deer in headlights. That's the worst time to stop when you're in front of the car.
Yeah.
But fear does that to you.
It's too early for sunrise.
Right?
Bam.
Bam. Oh, sorry for your car. I'm just going to walk off here. Because I'm a goddamn moose and I can take like a semi-truck. Well, without the trailer maybe. So you've done that. You're leaning into it. You're reacting realistically. And you're awesome. But how do you get other players on board? You are awesome, guys. Because you can do this. You can scare the pants off of everyone at that table. If they're wearing pants.
That's why I always wear two belts.
That's why I just wear Huggies. But you try to use something called...
It's a feature, not a bug.
When I pee or poop my pants, I don't have pants, so it's okay. Anyways, sorry. Back to it. Suggestive role-playing.
Ooh.
That's how you bring in other people into your maelstrom of fear that you're creating.
Right.
So what is suggestive role-playing? So basically you're using your character and you're specifically using role-play cues for your character's fear.
Yes.
Right? Onto the other players.
Right.
To prompt them to engage in similar behavior.
Yes.
Right. So again, use your character's body language, right, to convey their fear, their unease. They hold the weapon super tight.
Right.
When face danger, they're right. The other player's like, oh, Oh, so that's what it's like when someone's RPing fear. Then they'll sort of catch on to that, right? And they're in the mood for fear, so they'll hopefully jump on that bandwagon as well.
And not often characters do we kind of promote fear in the character, right?
Yeah.
Cowardly Lion is probably one of the only kind of fearful characters that he never was fearful, but he still plays it up, or he still lives that experience.
He's just an actor.
Like I don't know of any other kind of like good, and not good as in like good and evil, but good as in like respectable characters that are out there that I enjoy, that play the coward or the let us know.
I'm sure there's some.
There's got to be some.
Yeah.
But none that I like.
But it's funny. Horror movie characters are different.
Correct.
They're very different from like hero movies characters, obviously. So I think your horror campaign characters should also be different. If you want to specifically lean into that fear. Right? Another kind of cue you can use is verbal cues.
Hey, be scared.
Are you scared? I'm scared.
Me too. I'm scareder.
So use their speech to hint at their fear, right?
Right.
Say things like, I can't help but feel something is watching us. Right? Then people are like, what? And you can say that wherever you want to.
Oh, as a player, just chuck it out there just for fun. The DM's like, what? Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Because you are a DM too. It's specifically in this genre.
Yeah.
Right. Or I'm not sure we should go in there. Right. Why? Now there's a reason. Now there's a suspicion that there might be a reason not to go in there. Right. Or this place, just say, this place gives me the creeps. Right. And it induces that suspicion, even though it was very sort of on purpose and willful on your part as a player to induce that in other players.
Yeah.
Just by queuing them up, we are primed to react to those cues.
Another great example of this is in Star Wars when they say, I have a bad feeling about this. Right? That's that metachlorian force, whatever, that intangible thing being like, something's about to go wrong.
Just a
right, but it's
a
just
narrative
like,
tool. That's all the force is.
I have a bad feeling about this, right? And many characters say it, mostly the force attuned ones, right? But it's just something that they share, right? At any point, they can just be like, nope, I don't like this, right?
Yeah.
Shout it out if you're a PC. Yeah,
right. You're producing this fear.
Don't shout it out, but yeah.
This place gives me the creeps. Stop doing that, dude.
Stop doing that. I know what I'm scared.
So what these cues do, this suggestive role playing does, is that it invites the other players to sort of acknowledge and explore the fear within the narrative, right? So it's as simple as that. I mean, like I said, it's as simple in concept. Doing it is more difficult, but I think if you do it, you will notice that there is a huge difference in how that session feels.
Yes.
Right.
It will be different.
Because I really think that character reaction, the character behaviors to the fear in the story is like 50% of it. So it seems like a lot, but I think it's at least that much.
It has to be, because it becomes a chain of foundation that you're going to build the scene on.
Yeah.
Right. And if not everybody wants to get in that train or on that line or whatever it is, it's really hard for it to kind of go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so having the awareness, being there, being a part of what's going on is really going to give you all the information you need to go, oh, this moment is heavy.
Yeah.
Let's be heavy.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, right? Even if you're the jovial kind of silver lining character, that silver lining is a little harder to reach, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I can't think of anything nice to say, but it can't be that bad, right?
Man, we're not dead yet.
All
right. So yeah, that's it.
That's it.
I mean, it was quite a bit actually.
I feel like we haven't, like, I can keep talking about this.
Oh, there's so much that I skipped, I think. But I don't want to to keep you guys too much, 'cause I know you guys have a lot of prep to do for your Halloween.
There's always next Halloween. But hopefully we're still kicking around at that point.
Yeah,
Absolutely we will.
we will be.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
every year we'll make it a little bit more spooktacular.
Nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully you guys have gotten a lot out of this episode.
Yeah.
And may your Halloween sessions be scarier than ever. Right?
And by extension, more fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that's it. Do you have anything last parting words for our listener out there?
Yeah, making small like prey animals predatory is pretty creepy.
All right. Well then, stay safe, be respectful, scare the pants off of each other. This has been Caffeine and Cantrips.
I was Byron,
And I'm Sean.
and we will catch you next time.
Or else.
What's the noise for deep?
Outdoor.